But one of the biggest ones would be The Whale, something that has been getting so much attention. We talked about it a little bit last week. It has started to expand uh, as it goes wider and wider throughout America. It's the new Darren Aronofsky movie that has a lot of people thinking that Brendan Fraser's going to take it all. It's between Brendan and it's between Elvis himself, Austin Butler. I don't know if you have a preference so far, Zach, in which way you think it's going to be going for the award season.
Colin Farrell and Banshees.
Hey, I'm down for that one as well. Don't get me wrong. He is fantastic in there, but I feel like it is a battle of the prosthetics for most
Yeah,
people, and
yeah.
it really is just going to depend on what movie I guess made you feel a certain way. We talked about this a little bit, but I've been able to dive into a little bit of the interviews and figuring out that this is actually a play that was made a couple of years back that Aronofsky
Hmm.
saw out on Broadway. He liked it so much that he decided to get a cast of actors that he's been wanting to work with for a while and was able to put it all together. And hearing a lot of the actors talk about the approach that they had with this and the rehearsals and the 4 hours that it took Brendan to get into the suit, um, there's still a lot of elements to the story itself, uh, what the play script itself holds in terms of how these characters interact with each other that I do find to be very interesting and beautiful, even in its dark ways. And I still believe that Hong Chau and everything that this woman has been in all year delivers to a degree that even when I think the movies that she's in are going a little bit overboard, she comes in and is the saving grace, right? There are moments in this movie where a lot of it is for show about how big Brendan Fraser is in the movie. And there'll be scenes with Sadie Sink where I feel like they just wanted him to get up to chase her that don't
Right.
feel like they're authentic, natural moments. It feels like now we got to get this bit to show the audience all of the prosthetic bit, right? We're trying to get an Oscar here. But when Hong Chau's on screen, yes, you still feel that moment that they're trying to get him to choke to showcase, something that he's got to do on a daily basis as a part of his routine. But there's something about her that feels like it flows a lot better. So that's a big testament to her. It's a big testament
Hmm.
to Brendan Fraser with what he's able to do here. But I'm still split on a lot of the visuals in the movie, and I caught the boy on record, Darren Aronofsky, which I've said there are moments of this movie that come off as a comedy. And one of the first interviews that I hear, he's talking about every time I play this movie, there's just certain moments that I know are gonna get a laugh, and I get them every single time. I think that's why a lot of people are split on the film. Um,
Yeah.
Zach, you got to see this way longer ago than I did. Different crowd. What do you think?
Yeah, it didn't really work for me. I think that Brendan Fraser is pretty good in the film. Like I'd be happy for him to get an Oscar nomination. Hong Chow, like you said, really is kind of the actual heart of this movie and the only person that to me felt like a more
Character.
well-rounded character. And I wouldn't say that's really the writing. I would say that's her performance. I think she's bringing a
Agreed.
lot of angst and baggage and frustration to her delivery of certain bits here that I think it's a performance that's so good that it makes the performances around her seem more real too. But ultimately, when it comes down to the writing of this movie, I just don't think that there's like much there. I don't think that as much time as you spend on Brendan Fraser's character in his apartment, the entire film takes place in his apartment, you never really get a full picture of what he's like, what he thinks, how he feels. There's a moment that comes late in the film involving his job that is such a like random left turn because it doesn't feel like it's been foreshadowed or really alluded to. I just think that the film is built on this kind of phony empathy of sorts, where it wants to feel like it's sympathetic, but it's not actually sympathetic. It's more gawking, and it to me it just doesn't really cohere. Uh, Plus, there's the fact that the movie ends the exact same way that a couple other Darren Aronofsky films of recent have ended. It just, I don't know.
I've been
I don't
trying
know.
to
I
tell
think you
that
got to
to.
find a new way to end your movies.
I've been trying to tell Alina that I'm like, there's a certain thing when you've been with a filmmaker long enough that when he makes a
Yeah,
decision in the movie, you can assume the intent, right?
yeah,
And one thing that I explained to you in the last time that we had talked about the movie was that we know his like spectacle side of things. In Requiem, there are several moments where he knows you're gonna
yeah.
leave kind of traumatized from that movie. And I told you, this is still the same guy. So what are those Requiem cheek to cheek actions here. And I feel like after 20 something years, he's saying, here is that same spectacle, but in this big guy. Zach, I got
Hmm.
him on the record saying that too. He said it took him back to his Requiem for a Dream days, and I'm like,
Right.
sir, you are not helping yourself. I'm in the middle. I don't want to call it fake empathy. I think there's an empathetic story there being told by someone who doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't care, but is a little bit more sloppier in showcasing something for the
Yeah.
raw emotion that may come off more as a meme and making fun of the person, and he thinks it's like, no, it's raw.
Yeah.
He sometimes is that character from Glass Onion who's like, I'm just being honest. It's like, no, you're being honest with a specific lens of wanting to, as you said, gawk at the person.
Right.
So I don't know. I think that this is going to have a really big reception with mainstream audiences, though. I feel like the way
Yeah.
that this has been perceived from a lot of people who aren't seeing it as problematic and can put that to the side, they're not going to sense that, and they're going to feel like they're living a moment in someone's shoes because I feel that we've been adjusted for a lot of performances to be very out there, very big, heavy leaning performances in terms of like my left foot. And here you have someone who's taking his entire body to act this out, and I think that's going to be something that resonates with a lot of audiences.
Yeah, I mean, the film has been doing very well at the box office, whereas a lot
With
of
limited,
awards
yeah.
films haven't been doing well. Its per theater average is the like third highest of the year, I
Oh
believe it
wow.
is, behind Spider-Man and was it Tar or something like that? Something else
Everything
that did
everywhere.
oh, every there we go. It was behind
Because I
Spider-Man
did
and
numbers
Everything
early
Everywhere
on. I
All at
remember that
Once.
stat. Yeah.
Yeah, so that tells you that there is a lot of interest in this film. I think there's a lot of people who are really invested in this whole like Brendan Fraser comeback. Like I've heard
Yeah.
from normies in my life about The Whale
See what I
because
mean?
they are interested
Yeah.
in Brendan Fraser's story. So it I think it's something that is going to be a hit, although it's been interesting to see the critical tide turn a little bit on the movie. Whereas when it first premiered at Venice, it got a lot of raves, and Brendan Fraser immediately shot up to the top of the best actor rankings. And I think as more and more audiences have gotten to see it, the reactions have been a little bit more divided.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious to see how it will ultimately do because I'm I don't think it's a very good film, but I also think Brendan Fraser is good in it and good enough to
Yeah.
merit plaudits in it. So it'll be interesting to see how voting bodies sort of navigate that disparity, at least in my mind.
The Whale out in theaters as it expands. We'll see how it ends up doing at the end of the year with the Best Actor race.